Hi everyone, Dan from PeerPath here. We help students when it comes to their mathematics, and we also help students who are currently in university preparing to be a teacher and help aid them passing the numeracy section of their LANTITE. And that's where our focus is today. So I get asked this quite a lot. What level of mathematics do you actually need to pass LANTITE? So this is what we're going to break down for future teachers and just make it clear what it is that you are expected to do and what you are not. Let's get straight into it. So, just want to point out, LANTITE causes anxiety for a lot of capable people. There's a lot of people who sit this assessment, so it is important to bear in mind that you are not alone in this. In fact, if you look at the recent data from the government, there's approximately been 180,000 people who have sat LANTITE, and it does cause some nerves. Many of the students who take LANTITE are obviously strong academically because they're taking a degree. That in itself is an achievement. Anxiety is quite common. You might have had a bad experience, or it just may be the sitting of a test is not something that you're fond of. So it is normal to feel this way if you are anxious about your assessment. But we're just going to break it down and show that it's actually maybe more achievable than you first thought, or even if it is a bit tricky for you with some targeted practice, you will be able to get there. So what does passing LANTITE actually mean? What it means is it puts you in the top percentile when compared to the rest of the country. So we'll break it down here. You have met a standard to which you're performing within the top 30% of Australian adults. Although it sounds mean, compare that to your friends. If you are taking the LANTITE assessment, think of the friends that you have. Are they all strong mathematically? And you might say, yes, they are, or no, they're not. But chances are you are probably on a similar level to them. You wouldn't put them way high on a podium and put yourself down here. So we're comparing you to other Australian adults. What we're not doing, or what the LANTITE assessment is not doing, is it's not a university level assessment. Okay, you're not doing mathematics or numeracy at a university level. And same in terms of ATAR. No, LANTITE is comparing you to ensure that you're in the top 30% of adults when it comes to numeracy and literacy. And that does not mean that it's very high mathematics or university level mathematics and numeracy. About 91% of participants actually pass on their first attempt, so that might give you an idea. So yes, nerves are normal, but you can see here a good majority of people do pass on their first attempt. Similar to a driving test, there's going to be nerves, of course there is, but a lot of people pass, and if they don't get it the first time with some more targeted practice, you'll get there. Why does the LANTITE feel hard then if a lot of people do end up passing it and we're not comparing it to university level mathematics or numeracy? It's because the questions are applied and timed. So when you start doing your study, you'll realize that there's 65 numeracy questions, 120 minutes in total. There is a non-calc and a calc section, but the large majority of it is on a calculator. But just doing an assessment under time conditions can feel daunting for people, and that's totally normal. That kind of comes into a lack of retrieval practice. So if you've not used this knowledge recently, chances are then you're going to find it a little bit more difficult to go ahead and pull from your memory the knowledge that you need in order to tackle this assessment. Practice and preparing for the assessment is important because you most likely have the knowledge, but if you have not done similar questions, such as estimating a percentage, then it's hard to retrieve that information from your brain straight away. It's also based on decision making, not just calculations. So LANTITE has a large comprehension aspect to it, even in the numeracy section. And people do need the practice to make sure that they know when to apply a certain concept of mathematics to a certain question. But that comes with the practice, and you'll start realizing that, okay, this question mentions A, B, and C, whatever the scenario might be. And you'll realize that it's similar to other questions where you've had to use a similar technique or similar mathematical concept to help you. So let's talk about the actual maths level required. So we've broken it down into the fact that it's not ATAR level, it's not uni level. It's about years 6 to 9, so upper primary to early secondary mathematics. Some people compare it to NAPLAN, which you might remember is taken in year 9. But if we think of the year 9 NAPLAN, it's probably a little bit trickier than that because of the style of questions and the fact that they're a bit more wordy. But we're not going to the very high level of secondary mathematics here. We're just proving that it's achievable. And even if it's not your strong suit, you'll be able to get there and be a better teacher because you'll then be able to pass that knowledge on to your students. Things that LANTITE is not testing, so this might make it a bit clearer for you or make you feel a bit better, because when we mention mathematics, and some people do often go, oh, I'm no good at maths, but a lot of the time it's just certain concepts they have found tricky or it's not been broken down for them. But what you're not going to be tested on in LANTITE is calculus. You're not going to be tested on trig. You're not going to be tested on advanced algebra. Okay, that is a higher level of mathematics, which would probably be taken in year 10, year 11, year 12. And then obviously some people would study it at university. But we're going up to the higher end of the year 9 level. What does LANTITE numeracy focus on then? So we have spoken about what LANTITE doesn't assess. Let's focus on what it does assess. So you'll need number skills, and I personally think this is the most important thing because it can appear in every type of question in one way or another. So this is your percentages, your fractions, your decimals, as well as your estimation and rounding. So if fractions, decimal, and percentages are something that you need to brush up on, I would personally start there. There's also some geometry and measurement. So you've got some ratios, some rates, length, area, and volume. We're not finding the volume of really complex shapes or not finding the area of really complex shapes, but we do need to know what those concepts mean and be able to apply them to rectangles and a few other basic shapes. Money and financial numeracy. So we need to have an understanding of how to calculate wages, tax, stuff like that, some basic tax, as well as a budget. Best buy is a very common question. So if you're in the shop and they've got all of these different offers, where you could buy maybe 500 grams or 1 kilogram or 2 kilograms for a certain price, you need to be able to calculate what the best offer is per kilogram or per gram. We also need to be able to interpret some data and statistics, so reading graphs, charts. There's a few different ones there, but we can break them down into box plots, scalar graphs. We just need to be able to see a graph and be able to interpret what it's trying to tell us. And there is some basic algebra, but just to put you at ease, maybe, we're referring to stuff like what is the missing number. So it might be something like, I think of a number, I add 5 to that number, and then double it, and I get a result of, let's say, 30, and you have to figure out what the original number was, okay? Hopefully that one wasn't a decimal answer, but you get the idea. It's not rearranging really complex equations, okay? And it's also about spotting patterns as well. So a lot of pattern recognition compared to solving really hard equations. I understand algebra is a really broad concept. So when we mention algebra, some people might get a bit concerned, but we're tackling the fundamentals and the basics so that you could then pass that knowledge on yourself in future. So let's talk about some free resources. So hopefully you have an idea now of what level we are referring to when we're doing the LANTITE assessment and what we need to know. I personally would start with NAPLAN papers because, like I said, it's a good starting point to check you are roughly approaching the year 9 level. And then you can go from there. You might be like, okay, I am rusty. I need to work more on these concepts. Or you might be like, this is mostly okay. I just need to brush up. It's a good starting point regardless. I will link all of these resources in the description below. I also have some of my own, which I will put in there as well. After I've done the NAPLAN papers, look at YouTube videos such as this one. I have a few other on our channel, but there's some great YouTube creators out there, such as Maths Antics. They're very good at showing concepts visually. Maths Genie is a good one to where they just get straight to the point, but practice all of the concepts you need. You might do the NAPLAN papers and go, well, actually, my percentages and decimals, etc., are pretty good, but I am struggling when it comes to something like finding the area of a triangle. Type area into Maths Antics or area of a triangle into Maths Genie, and you'll get lots of resources and lots of videos to help you recap that concept. There's also the QTS numeracy book in the UK, as you can probably tell I'm originally from. They have something called the QTS, which is the equivalent standard. It's what teachers have to do over there to show they're at the same numeracy and literacy level. And the questions are very similar. So due to that, it's a good point of reference to compare to and give yourself more resources to practice. Like I said, it's the English equivalent or the UK equivalent. So good practice there. Curtin Uni is pretty brilliant. What I like about the resources they have on their website is it's broken into the 4 strands. So there's number and algebra. They put both those strands together actually, but they have all questions on number and algebra together. They have all questions to do with geometry and measurement together. They put all of the questions with probability and statistics together. And I believe they also have a non-calc list of questions as well. Even though that is a short part of the assessment, you still want to be able to do questions without the use of a calculator. So it's worth making sure that you practice those types of questions as well. There's a lot of find 10% of a number or find 20% of a number when it comes to non-calc. After you've done all that, then look at the official resources by ACR. The reason being is that they have a few practice tests and a few practice questions, but they're not broken down specifically into each type of category. So this is where your retrieval practice will come in, because question 1 might be to do with percentages, question 2 might be to do with basic algebra, question 3 might be to do with data and charts and tables. So it's a good way of checking, do I have that knowledge available to me straight away, or is it something that I need to recap and revise a few more times so that I then can retrieve it a bit quicker? Here are 5 other tips that I would use to ensure your success. You will improve with consistent practice, regardless of where your starting point is. Consistent practice will help you out. A little bit each day is better than trying to cram it at the last minute. There's lots of courses out there which run for about 10 weeks. We help people here as well. We want to give you a good majority of time to make sure that you are practicing the skills so that you can retrieve them on the day of your assessment. Speaking of the assessment, get familiar with the online structure of it, as well as the calculator that you are given. So both ACR and Curtin Uni give you the ability to model the online experience, because you don't want to know all of the content and all of the technique that you need to answer the questions, and then find that you're a little bit stressed because you've not practiced the online aspect of it and you're not too sure how to choose whether it's A, B, C, or D, or you're not too sure how to operate the online calculator. So just make sure that you are using the resources available, and you don't have to start straight away with online resources. Use paper versions, but you want to see what the setup of the assessment is like and how you go from one question to the next, so on and so forth. Practice taking notes and showing your workings as well. So you get given some scrap paper, and this will be especially useful when it comes to the non-calc section, but also taking notes and doing some very basic workings, even writing what 2 numbers you need to add, will help you keep your thought process clear, because you might get midway of a question and might think, oh, what is it I need to do? If you've made some basic notes and key points from the question, you're more likely to be able to pick it up again compared to starting the question all over again. I would come up with a little acronym for test strategy, something that just helps you think, I need to double check my units, I need to underline keywords. There's so many out there, but relying on a process which helps you just slow down a bit and take the test with intention is going to help you out, okay? The comprehension side of things is probably where people find a little bit more tricky without knowing it. So just being able to read the question and interpret what they need to do. So coming up with a little slogan or a little acronym to help you with test strategy will give you something to fall back on and use on the day. So like I've got said, and here we go, aids comprehension and reduces test fatigue as well, to be fair. And last but not least, nerves are a good thing. If you go in thinking, oh, I'm nervous for this, I'm a bad person, so on and so forth. I would encourage you to rewire that, to be honest, because if you don't have any nerves at all, that probably means that you don't really care. And that is not necessarily a good thing moving forward when you're going to be trying to help the people in the future. Having some nerves is a good thing, okay? No matter how much you prepare, you're probably going to be a little bit nervous. I encourage you to channel. That shows that you care about what you're doing, which I would say is a good thing. So in the description below, I have all of the resources that I've mentioned, as well as a free practice paper that I've created. There are also other links in the description box if you feel like you need support, or you can join our Facebook group where we have some frequently asked questions to help you feel as prepared as can be. Regardless of when you take your assessment, whether you're just starting out or you've got it in the near future, I wish you all the best. And with consistent practice and a clear plan, I'm sure you'll get there.